البخاري في صحيحه عن أبي موسى الأشعري رضي الله عنه قال الأشعري. And the theme for the next few nights is going to serve as a reminder importance of caring for the chronically ill or the ill in general. And I specify the chronically ill because they are a forgotten demographic within every community, unfortunately. And a part of that is also to not just care for them in terms of personal care, where you visit them and you go, but also thinking of the ill in general, what you can do for them and how you can serve them. And a part of that is donating blood, for example, and many other initiatives that can serve them. And I think I've shared this in this masjid a number of times in the past. One of the awqaf that the Muslims had maybe 500-600 years ago, probably more than that. And it initiated in Egypt, and it was moved to Damascus, and it stayed in the Muslim world for a number of years. The waqf Mu'nis al-Marda, it was called. The endowment that was for Mu'nis al-Marda, which is the person who goes and comforts the ill. Not in the fact where there's an endowment, you pay someone to go comfort them. That would be too direct. You would pay, the endowment was to pay people to go stand in front of the room of someone who was sick and talk about the fact that he's doing so well. So the person who was sick would hear them and think that he picked up a piece of information that he wasn't meant to hear, and he'll feel good about himself. So maybe some will argue it's unethical, but I don't think it's a problem of ethicality, especially for someone who's very depressed and is feeling bad. But this actually existed, and you can read about it. It was there for hundreds of years. So the concept of taking care of the ill is very broad in our deen, and definitely organ donations, another one. Something that everyone should have a card. If you don't already have the card, sign it, and may Allah grant you a long life with prosperity, inshallah, and you never need to. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes your life early, or you leave and there is a possibility of you benefiting an ill person, then that's a lot of khair. And Mujamma al-Fiqh al-Ifta in Saudi, and Rabi al-Ulama al-Muslimin with Sheikh Qaradawi over the last maybe 20 years have all put out the fatwas of this being encouraged to do, not discouraged, in case you have any doubts about the topic. So the hadith that I'm going to share over the next few nights are just kind of reminders of the Prophet ﷺ prioritizing this as an ethical and Islamic behavior, which is to take care of the ill and take care of the people who are suffering. And this hadith is very short, where Abu Musa tells us the Prophet ﷺ said, قال أطعموا الجائع وعودوا المريض وفكوا العاني. So he gave 3 commands alayhi salatu wasalam consecutively, which he rarely ever did alayhi salatu wasalam. If you study his sunnah, you won't find that he gave a lot of commands, especially not consecutively. But in this hadith, he gave 3 commands that serve as basically a foundation of how we should see our communal service, or where we should see our communal service originating. So, أطعموا الجائع, make sure that you feed the hungry. Hungry people should take priority. No one should go hungry. Kids should not sleep hungry, and families should not be hungry. There's enough food for everyone. Make sure that you feed people who can't feed themselves. And if you've never, I think we've talked about this every year. The reason that we have Ramadan, one of the reasons for Ramadan, is to remind you of how ugly the feeling of hunger is. It's one of the ugliest feelings ever, like true hunger, where you are absolutely starving and you can't find food or you can't afford food. And I can tell you that I've seen that in my life, and it'll break your heart to run into something like that. And it's hard for you to really say anything in the presence of true hunger. Most of us sitting here have never really experienced true hunger. Even in Ramadan, in July, when it's 17 or 18 hours of siyam, even then you have the promise of maghrib, and your mom or your wife is cooking the camel, or grilling the whale for you when you're going to have a feast like never before. So there's the promise of food, so it helps you get through, but there are people who are hungry and there's no promise of food to come next, and it's absolutely devastating. So أطعموا الجائع, as he said alayhi salatu wasalam, وعودوا المريض, and care, and that's what iyada, as I said, iyada doesn't mean just visit. Zurul marid, that's visit. Iyada is care. That's why a clinic in Arabic is called iyada. What I have is called iyada because it's for care. It's to care for people. So udul marid, as in care for them. Go see them and offer them care. Offer them something that they may require. Look for something you can do for them. Wafukul ani, and free the enslaved, or free the imprisoned, or free the person who's in debt. Al-ani can have all those meanings and actually more. So if you look at this of this continuum, or the way he's approaching this, alayhi salatu wasalam, he's looking at the demographics in your community that are in most need. People who are hungry, people who are chronically ill, and people who are enslaved or don't have their freedom, either financially, militarily, or socially. People who are lacking their ability to make their... These are the people in every community that are in need. They are not well. They can't practice Islam properly. They can't enjoy life appropriately. They don't function at their best because they're missing one of the basics that they require. If you don't have enough food for yourself and your children, there's not much you can do with your life. There's not much deen, there's not much science, there's not much knowledge, there's not much prosperity, there's not much happiness, right? If you're people who are ill, this is called wellness, right? In Arabic, I just translated afiyah. That's all I did. I just wanted to say, what is afiyah in Islam? Because that's all we ask for. That's what he asked for, alayhi salatu wasalam, every day of his life. Outside of akhirah, outside of jannah and nar and all the stuff that we care. As'aluka Allahumma al-afiyah. Fi ad-dini wa ad-dunya wal akhirah. Ya Rabb, just got me afiyah, wellness. Because the moment you lose your afiyah, the moment you're not well anymore, everything changes. So when you're sick, you look back and you're like, oh, what was I doing? What was I worried about? Why was I complaining? I was well, I wasn't in pain. I wasn't... the people who are in pain, or people who aren't well, and those who are lacking their freedoms and in debt and can't take care of themselves. And that was his philosophy, alayhi salatu wasalam. If you see him as a philosopher, and that's his thought process. If you see him as a wise man or a forward thinker, he looked at the weakest parts of society and he commanded the people take care of them first. Because as a community, you can't prosper and you can't stand if there are people amongst you who are struggling that way. And you don't care for them, you don't offer them the services that they need to get out of the situation that they're in. Because we all sail together, or we all sink together. That's how he saw it, alayhi salatu wasalam. And that'd be very difficult today. Maybe very difficult today to actually practice and preach politically. But we're not preaching it politically. We're speaking about this ethically. We're speaking about this from the origin of what we believe in our hearts as Muslims, and how we see our role within the world that we live in. And if we did that as Muslims, I believe that a lot of change would come to the world, and it would be meaningful and would, inshallah, sustainable as well. يروي الإمام البخاري في صحيحه عن أبي موسى الأشعري رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أطعموا الجائع وعودوا المريض وفكوا العاني. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد.